Where a new study from Israeli and international researchers challenges claims that Israel has committed a genocide in Gaza since Hamas's October the 7th, 2023 attacks. The report, published by the Begin Sadat Center at the Bar Ilan University, argues that accusations of starvation, indiscriminate bombing and systemic civilian killings are based on faulty data and Hamas-influenced sources. It notes that before the war, Gaza averaged under 300 supply trucks a day, which is far fewer than the 500 called necessary by UN officials, according to the report. During the conflict, Israel regularly sent more than 100 trucks daily, reaching 600 during the ceasefire. This is what the report claims. The study claims that Hamas diverted aid, used civilians as human shields, and distorted casualty figures. It also says that safe zones remained relatively protected even as civilian deaths occurred. The authors conclude that genocide requires intent to destroy a people, something they say is absent in Israel's campaign, which they frame as a response to Hamas tactics. We're now joined by Dan Perry, who is a world affairs analyst, and he joins us live from Tel Aviv in Israel. Dan, thank you very much for joining us. This report obviously comes soon after the world-leading experts, the Association of Genocide Scholars, released their statement saying that Israel is committing genocide in the Gaza Strip. What are your thoughts on both of these reports that have come out, and how would you compare them and the credibility of both?
Boy, that is very complex. To begin with, a discussion about genocide is little unbecoming to all sides, because if you deny genocide, it looks like you're also denying there is great suffering in the Gaza Strip, which I think is indisputable, and yet that's how it's taken. On the other hand, people who claim it's genocide, I don't believe are sticking to the actual legal definition of genocide. My guess is they don't know it, and there is a definition by the United Nations itself from the 1947 Genocide Convention. And that definition requires genocide to be the intent to destroy a group of people in whole or in part. It's completely in contravention to what people think. People think genocide is a lot of killing. In fact, it can be no killing at all if there's the intent. And there can be a huge amount of killing without the intent to destroy a people. That is at the basis of the argument, and I know it sounds like a quibble, but it's a little bit important to people who are being accused of genocide. The Begin Sadat Center report, as far as I can tell, is an argumentation. It's not really a study. They're saying that the details coming out of Gaza are unverifiable. That's true. It's partly true because Israel does not allow foreign correspondents in. They're saying that all the institutions in Gaza that provide details are compromised because they're infiltrated by Hamas, or at the very least, they're terrified by Hamas. The Hamas health ministry, the Gaza health ministry, is run by Hamas. If you think Hamas is incapable of lying to journalists or to the UN, that would be very, very naive indeed. They are diabolical terrorists, and they are carrying out a war of narratives. So it is a tremendous mess. The basic argument from the side of defenders of Israel, or at least sticklers to the definition of genocide, is that Israel says all along, and it's credibly it says, that if Hamas returned its hostages and surrendered and disarmed and handed over control of the Gaza Strip, the war would stop. And I believe the war really would stop. You can argue about whether those conditions are realistic, whether they're desirable. I think they certainly are. For the Gazan people, more than anyone desires that Hamas should let them be. But if it's true that the war ends, if Hamas gives up, then there is no genocide. Because if Israel intended to destroy the Palestinians, then, well, I mean, it would be impossible to stop it without a defeat of Israel. As for the group of so-called scholars, I fear that has fused together tragedy and farce, because that group has been revealed to be largely a fiction, which anyone can join. I was on an Israeli channel yesterday where a producer joined it within minutes by paying $30. Only a quarter of the people in the group voted. 3/4 refused to vote. There was no debate in it. And basically, it's an affirmation by people, most of whom are not scholars. So that's a fiction. And as for the Begin Sadat Center, it's not really a study. You are left with the argument that I presented before about whether or not it's genocide. What is indisputable is there is tremendous suffering in Gaza. And one of the problems is that the people in Gaza cannot leave the territory the way Ukrainians could flee. Leave it to return when the war is over, because Israel won't let them in and Egypt won't let them in.
I just want to provide some background context to some of Dan's comments there. The study that we are talking about is the study that came out 3 days ago out of the IAGS, which is the world's largest professional association of genocide scholars and includes a number of Holocaust experts. Out of its 500 members, 28% took part in the vote, and 86% of those who voted supported this resolution, just to give you some context there. How credible, Dan, do those inside Israel find reports like this about Hamas looting aid to be credible and true? Obviously, disinformation and is extremely vast has been during this conflict. Obviously, that doesn't help the fact that Israel does not let international journalists into the Gaza Strip. How does one go about navigating this war for the correct information, Dan?
It's extremely difficult. You have to simply be a little bit intelligent about understanding what is the likelihood that a thing is happening, what is the likelihood that your source is it allowed media to go in freely, they'd be killed, many of them, because the area is unbelievably dangerous, then Israel itself would be blamed. That's not really a good argument after 2 years almost. Basically, the war in Gaza is such a mess, engineered by Hamas, that tried to drag Israel into this truly satanic trap with its own people, the Gazans, basically in the path of the gunfire, and held there, in some cases by Hamas. You ask me if when Israel claims things about Hamas, or when outsiders claim things about Hamas that seem so evil as to be incredible, for example, that they prevent people from leaving areas that Israel has warned it's about to attack, or they prevent people from getting to the areas of aid distribution because they want to control the aid distribution, or when they purposely embed in civilian neighborhoods, firing rockets from those neighborhoods to draw fire that will kill civilians because they think it's good PR for Palestinians to die because Israel gets blamed by people abroad who don't see the context. All those things are possible, and I think some of those things are provably true.
Yes.
The idea that it embeds in mosques and hospitals and schools is simply incontrovertible. Whether right now Hamas is looting the aid, I cannot prove, but there have been videos that showed it, and knowing what I know of Hamas, it's extremely, overwhelmingly likely.
Dan Perry, thank you very much for your time and for joining us here and for your insight on NewsX World. It's a pleasure having you. We now move